together. We are going to turn now to page 74. So we are in the section called Birkot HaShachar, the section of morning blessings, and one of those blessings is a piece of text that comes from the book of Numbers, and this is a text saying, "How great are your tents, O Israel, the people of Israel," that famously were supposed to come out as a curse, but came out as a blessing for the people of Israel. So it doesn't, on the surface, doesn't necessarily fit the context of all the other morning blessings that we have, where we're starting out saying, thank you for all these things. But I like to think of it in the sense of, there's this sort of outsider who came to the Israelite camps and intended to curse the Israelites. And so as we're saying these morning blessings, giving thanks, starting with this mindset of gratitude, can't control what comes at us, right? We're not going to be able to control what people say or try to say. But we have a choice about how we're going to respond and what we're going to focus on. And so thinking about focusing on the positive things to the extent that we can is always nice. So let's turn together at the top of page 74. To page 76. 76 and page 78 go together. These are our blessings, giving thanks for our physical body and for our soul, all the parts that make up who we are as a whole person. We are going to, it's joined together in the English on page 76. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. And we'll turn to page 78 for Elohai Neshama. Elohai, Elohai Neshama. together in the Chatima, sealing off that blessing. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado nefesh kol chai veruach kol basar ish. On page 80, we have our Nisim B'chol Yom, our gratitude for the daily miracles in our lives. Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'bina lehavchin bein yom uvein layla. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shana me'enai u'numa me'afapai. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'nei chorim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Amen. All right, what blessings do you want to add to our Nisim B'chol Yom? Either things that you're grateful for that weren't listed, or if there was a blessing in there that really spoke to you today. Jonah. Giving thanks for the earth. Beautiful. Love it. What else? And if you're online, you can... Shh. Do we have a chat? We do have a chat. Yay, you can share in the chat. Roger.
For family. One of my older sisters, two of her kids, and a couple of children after that. Are meeting up with us tomorrow, and we're going to have a nice time together. Not lunch at my house.
Aww. Beautiful. Yeah, Max.
The game D&D.
For the game D&D. Where is Eli? Yes. Yes. For Dungeons and Dragons, yes. I'm volunteering. For purpose, is that what you said? For family, for purpose. Beautiful. Amen. Yeah, Molly.
Happy for my good friend Tim, who's going to be eventually
2 hours. Holy cow. I know you're leaving soon, but wow. Okay. Amen. And safe travels. I'm grateful for new life. I got to meet yesterday a friend's new baby that took a lot of science and work to bring this baby into the world, and she is beautiful and healthy, and grateful for the miracle of life. Anyone else? Marty?
After a mere 3 years, we got approval for our child
Wow.
kitchen. Only the After only 3 years, the Seattle King County Board of Health, we got approval.
Okay, Marty.
With some conditions, mind you, but only 3 years.
Baby steps, baby steps. That's good. Yeah. All stuff. All right. For all those things, let's join together in a hearty amen. Amen. And we'll join together in the blessing for the study of Torah on page 86. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'Torah. All right, and let's, by way of studying a quick little piece of Torah, let's look at page 89. a text that I know many of us know well, but it's always, I think, helpful to revisit it, which is the ladder of tzedakah from Maimonides in the middle of the page. There are 8 degrees in the giving of tzedakah, each one higher than the one before. So the bottom level is to give grudgingly, reluctantly, or with regret. So that still counts as an act of tzedakah. To give less than one should, but with grace. To give what one should, but only after being asked. To give before one is asked. To give without knowing who will receive it, although the recipient knows the identity of the giver. To give without making known one's identity, to give so that neither giver nor receiver knows the identity of the other, and to help another to become self-supporting by means of a gift, a loan, or by finding employment for the one in need. The highest level of tzedakah is that idea that you can give a man a fish for a day, or you can teach a person to fish for life. So we came up with that long before whoever came up with that phrase of teaching a person to fish. Ancient wisdom about giving tzedakah, helping people become self-sustaining is the highest forms of tzedakah. We are going to continue on page 100 with Psalm 150. As we wrap up our morning blessings, we finish with a psalm of gratitude. Page 100. Ready to move now to the Shema and its blessings, starting with the Baruch Hu, our call to worship, which is on page 108. If you're able, please rise and we'll join together. may be seated, and we are going to turn now to Yotzer Or, our blessing on page 110, giving thanks for the changing of the seasons, for the daily rotation of nature, giving us beautiful sunshine every day, and light, oxygen, all the things that we need to live and survive. Let's join together in the English of Yotzer Or at the bottom of page 110. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Me'orot. Ahava Rabbah is on page 112. Ahava Rabbah Abtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hamla Gedol Avitera, Chamat Aleinu, Ba'avur Avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Shebatchu V'cha, Shebatchu V'cha, Avotenu V'imotenu, Vatelam Dechu Kechayim, Ken Techonenu Lamtenu, Rachem, Rachem, Rachem Aleinu. Bless you. V'tem b'libeinu lehavinu haskil lishmor, lilmod lilamed, lishmor ve'lasot, u'kayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha b'ahava, ve'ha'emninu v'toratecha, v'darabeh b'beinu v'mitzvotecha, ve'achel levaveinu, ve'ahava u'yira Hashem echad, ve'lo nevosh, ve'lo nigelem, ve'lo nigashem, le'olam ha'ed, ki v'Hashem kodshecha, hagadol v'hanora b'tachnu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha b'yeshuatecha. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us truly. You drew us near to your great name that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ve'amal Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed. Page 116. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'chol nafshecha u'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונענו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. I'm reading A.J. Jacobs' book, The Year of Living Biblically, right now, which is probably like 20 years old at this point. But he's what does he call himself? An immersive journalist or something like that. He's known for immersing himself in something for a year or a week or a day. So recently he had an article about trying to live without plastic for a day. So one of his books is where he tries to live by as much of the Bible as he can for a full year, which you can imagine has a lot of very interesting parts because there's a lot that we don't practice as letter of the law today. But when he gets to the part about the Ve'ahavta, it says to write the words of Torah on your doorpost. So he goes out and actually takes a pencil, because his wife won't let him do more than just a light pencil, and writes on the doorpost of his apartment in New York City, and he decides to write the Ten Commandments. But as in many of our homes, we have a mezuzah on our door, and in the mezuzah is this text that we just sang, Shema Ve'ahavta. So I was just thinking about that and wondering if you were going to actually get out there and write something on your doorpost. The whole point of the mezuzah is to remind you every single time you walk through your doorstep, right? Some people touch it and kiss it. It's supposed to be a reminder of the text that you're supposed to live the commandments, and a lot of people have different interpretations of what the Ve'ahavta specifically means to them when they're walking through the door. So just curious, thinking if you were going to write something, if you're going to write anything from the Torah on your doorpost that was something you thought would be an important reminder every day, what would that be? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on what that would be, but yeah, Sally. Remember the Sabbath day. Very nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But the Zachor, the memory is the important part. Okay. Nice. Yeah, Mom. Which you could probably find in a biblical verse that doesn't exactly say that, right? But something connected to Sukkot. Yeah. Irene.
Another not biblical one, but if not now, when?
Hillel. Yeah. Nice. Ooh. I love that. Yeah, Jill. That's the one, yeah. The golden rules, do unto others as you would have done to you, or the biblical version of that is don't do to others what you don't want done to you. I like that. Any other ones? Yeah, Jonah, what would you write? Keeping Shabbat. You and Sally can pair up. You'll remember it. You'll keep it. That's nice. I like it. Cool. Yeah, Marty.
I was thinking something like thanking God for allowing me to be what I am in my myself. Not to be like someone else, but allow me to be like I am.
The Zeusia story, yeah.
Or it might be this morning.
I love that. Any others?
I just thought it'd say something that was giving me strength. But some days,
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe even just that line, those few words we say every time we finish a book of the Torah, chazak, chazak, v'ni chazek. Be strong, and you will be strengthened. Yeah, something, yeah, I like that. Love it. Thanks for sharing. Maybe the next few times when you're walking through your house, you'll think a little differently about your mezuzah. Bring some awareness to it. A lot of the rituals we have, I think, are so beautiful and also sort of like ebbs and flows, right? If you get so used to it, then you don't really pay attention to it anymore. So sometimes it's nice to just bring a little attention to something. So we're going to continue on Michamocha, or on page 122 now with Michamocha, giving thanks for our freedom, our ability to be who we are, uniquely ourselves, as Marty says. And let's join together. Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufteknu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go Aleinu, Adonai tzva'ot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai Ga Yisrael. We're going to continue now on page 124, followed by 126, 128 with the Amidah, our tefillah, our intimate prayer. We'll join together. Adonai sefatatuta ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Hasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Lifnei V'Neihem, L'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Kol Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol. Page 130. Nekadesh Shemcha Ba'olam Keshem Shemachti Shemo Tel Bishmi Marom Kakatuv Ayad Yilieko Vikaros Azeve Amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevot Melech Kol Haaretz Kevodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shimcha B'chol Haaretz Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshiachenu V'Hu Yashmienu B'Rachamav L'nei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohecha Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Yitzion L'dor v'dor Hallelujah L'dor v'dor nagigu lecha U'netzach netzachim kedushatcha nagdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush Le'olam v'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. I'm going to take some time now for silent prayer. You may be seated whenever you're finished. On page 142, at the very bottom of the page, we'll join together in our prayer for peace. Ose shalom, Ose shalom. Shalom. right. We are going to continue now with our Torah service. Our Torah service begins on page 244. I'm going to invite up Molly, if you are willing to hold our Torah for us this morning. And if you're able, please rise. We're going to open the doors to our ark and join together. Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'en k'maasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai melech, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oseh amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei komot Yerushalayim, Tivnei komot Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad bataknu, Melech Aram v'nisa Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai meYerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Namo Yisrael v'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. God live Adonai iti, unromem Shemo yaktav. Leha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hachod. Ki ho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ko b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai Hamar Malcha Yamin Haseh L'Hol Erosh Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Olam Olam Amen. Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Al Shosha Devarim, Olam Olam Amen. Al HaTorah ve'al Avodah ve'al Gemilut Hasadim. Thank you. Al HaTorah ve'al Avodah ve'al Gemilut Hasadim. You may be seated. Thank you, Molly. All right. We are going to be looking at Parshat Korach today. If you would like a chumash, there are a few right there if you haven't already grabbed one. And we're going to be just looking at the very first few verses of our Torah portion, which is on page 1003 in the Pout version. Chapter 16 of Numbers, verse 1. This is Parshat Korach, which is mostly consumed with and famous for the Korach rebellion. What?
I have the other book.
You have the You have the right one. 1003. 1003?
No.
Sure. Thank you, Jim. All right, I want to start by sharing a poem. So this is a poem by Rick Lupert, which he is a... Good morning, Bogadim. There's Eli. You missed our Max for the morning blessings gave a shout out to being thankful for D&D. It's like, where's Eli? Here you are. So Rick Lupert is a humorous Jewish poet. So he has a book called God Wrestler, which has a poem, at least one poem for every Torah portion. So I wanted to share his poem for Korach, because when I was thinking about it, this portion always strikes me as like something out of Game of Thrones. And then his poem just touched on that in a way that I felt like I needed to share it. So here's his poem called Korach. A rebellion against the establishment, a dissenting family swallowed by the earth, a sudden punitive plague eliminated by a man wielding a staff that would soon sprout almond blossoms. Are you listening, HBO? These are the plot points of an epic trailer for a weekly series I'd love to watch in the fall. Honestly, I'd love to watch now. But the space between the announcement of a production and its appearance in my digital world makes me kvetch like 250 Israelites in the desert who have nothing better to do. As a side note, if you could get Ian McShane to play Korach the Rebel, I'll double the amount. I'm paying you. And now that I think about it, it's not so much of a side note. Oh, the bad men McShane has played on pay TV, stealing our screens with an infectious no good. Like a Korach, rebel with a cause, challenging his first cousin Moses, whose record, so far, is pretty good, if you consider we're no longer in Egypt. When the priests inside the tabernacle were following the instructions for how to make their holy garments, Korach was on the outskirts with a pop-up Challenge Authority t-shirt shop. Except instead of challenge, it was the ancient Israelite teenage rebellious slang of the day. He was the ultimate other side of the aisle, refusing to pass any useful legislation, but making darn sure his colleagues on the right didn't either. And what do we get for our youthful rebellions? Most of us grow up, have children, watch them question the same authority we are now a part of. Almond blossoms in our closets, ready to pull out to display our parlor tricks of wisdom, doing everything we can to prevent our young rebels from being swallowed up by the earth. I'm not usually the type to write a poem about questioning authority and rebellion. Outside of an occasional strongly worded email to a customer service department, I'm much more of a status quo kind of guy. But Korach, swallowed inside the earth, reminds me we don't always get our way, and that is our way. So there you have it. So the word that really struck me this Shabbat, and I'm sure many of you that were in Torah study had a lot of good, interesting things to talk about as well, but the word that struck me is actually the very first word of the Torah portion, which is Vaikach. So Vaikach Korach, which the translation, the Plaut translation, translates as betook. The Korach, son of Yishar, son of Kotan, son of Levi, betook himself. That word Vaikach is the verb to take. It really implies a few things to me. One is that it's something intentional, right? That you don't, it's not just that Korach is like, has found himself feeling something and he's like going with the flow, like the action to take something, especially in the Torah, which is sparse on words, but the verb to take it really implies that there's this intentional action, and that that action to take just on its own, if you think about I think the book of Numbers is full of some really interesting leadership commentary. I don't know if it's lessons, I suppose, but definitely commentary. And I think that what we have here is Korach taking something which symbolizes someone who is focusing on what's in it for me, right? So throughout the Torah portion, there's parts of the Torah portion where normally, grammatically, it would make sense to speak as an individual in the singular of a community, but it uses the plural for community. And so there's this whole sense of like, what do I as an individual have a right to versus what are my obligations to the whole community? And Rabbi Jonathan Sachs talks about this as the idea of servant leadership, that there are people who are always asking what's in it for me. And Korach is one of those examples there where he's challenging authority, not because we shouldn't be able to challenge authority. We absolutely should. We sort of have that balance in the Torah where we see different times where it's okay, we have to have checks and balances, but what matters is our intent and what's behind it. If we're doing it for self-serving purposes versus if we're doing something for the good of the community, because we think it's the right thing to do for the whole people. And in the Talmud, they talk about this as machlochet l'shem shamayim, disagreements for the sake of heaven. And in our middle school class this past year, we learned a little bit about these disagreements for the sake of heaven, and that Judaism values that dissent, right? That's part of our tradition. But two things are important. One is intent, and one is also about how you go about doing it. If you're dissenting in a way that's intentionally trying to throw someone under the bus, or, pull the rug out from under them and take away things from them just for your own self-serving purpose, that is very different than, we all know, other leadership styles, ways of coming to someone in a different way, a more positive way, bringing up a problem in a way where you're actually trying to work towards a solution, and it's not just about like, I'm just going to bring up the problem. And so Korach is a really important story in our Torah portion, not in the book of Numbers. He represents, and all the people essentially who get swallowed up by the earth later in this Torah portion, represent this idea of what the Talmud is calling an argument that's not for the sake of heaven. And so in the Talmud, I've talked about this a lot, that there are, I forget how many thousands of disagreements and conversations in the Talmud. Very few of them actually get resolved, which is so frustrating to my Talmud class. But actually, Jewish tradition sees that as a positive thing, that the rabbis say that the arguments that are worth having, there is going to be this constant sense of dissent, argument back and forth, give and take, and it's not, there's a reason that the Talmud doesn't come down and say just, this is how it's going to be, and that the arguments that are not for the sake of heaven, that's when we get a final, like, nope, this is a yes or this is a no. And this is a case where the rabbis and the Talmud point to Korach and say, this is a argument not for the sake of heaven. The way he did it, why he did it. And so there was no room for making space to have a conversation and have that respectful dissent, because the way Korach brought it about wasn't respectful. And so as we move along in our lives, especially this coming week, I think about that word vayikach, that word of taking, and think about, we all serve different communities in different ways, not just our TBT community, but in places where we work, in other communities where we serve, give our time. And we have an opportunity to think, actually there's a quote from Rabbi Sachs I wanted to share. Think about how we're going to approach, not that, because nothing is perfect. It's not that those situations are always going to be great, but when there is a problem, how are we going to approach that situation? Rabbi Sachs writes in his commentary on this Torah portion that a true leader is a servant, not a master. He does not seek to set himself above others or lord it over them. Leadership as power, dominance, mastery, or rule has no place in Judaism. But to the contrary, the greatest achievement of a leader is to have served God and help others to do so. And that is what Moses understood and what Korach and his fellow rebels did not. And so I think as we're in situations, thinking about before we go, and maybe if we're in that Vaikach moment where we want to grab onto something or try and take ownership, take over a situation, sort of stepping back and asking yourself, why is it that I want to do this? And thinking about how you can have a machloket, a disagreement that's done in the way where it's a machloket l'shem shamayim, in the name of or for the sake of heaven. So I'm going to be reading the first 3 verses of our Torah portion, and I would love to invite up Tim for our Aliyah, if you're willing. We will give you the Aliyah for safe travels, and then when you make it home safely, you can come and do it again and chant or read our Birkat HaGomel as well.
Baruch Hu es Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vaikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi Vedatan v'Aviram b'nei Eliyav ve'on ben Pelet b'nei Ruvain Vayakumu lifnei Moshe v'anashim mibnei Yisrael chamishim u'matayim nisiei eda kriyei moed anshe Shem Vayikahalu al Moshe ve'al Aharon vayamru alehem rav lachem ki kol ha'eda kulam kadoshim uvtucham Adonai umadua titnasu al kahal Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu Torah emes v'chayei olam nata b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. Yashar. Todah, safe travels to you.
Thank you so
And
much.
if you, I know some of you have already done this. There is a tradition in when someone is traveling to Israel to give them tzedakah it's sort of this superstitious, right? I assume it comes from some superstitious.
No, it's not.
Nope.
No, it was.
That's like supposed to guarantee a safe travel?
It comes
That's not superstitious?
actually from a tradition of tzedakah, of contributing to the Jewish community of Israel, because for centuries and centuries there was a tiny number of people there who depended on the outside world for their support.
Well, that makes sense. I thought
that's
there
where
was supposed to be the idea that's like ensuring that you get there safely.
I don't think it ever had anything to
doesn't
do with the
hurt.
safe travel.
So,
It was the money was to go to Israel, and if anyone does want to contribute, the money will go to a program called Beis HaGefen, which is in Haifa. It is a nonprofit that's part of the Haifa city government that supports cultural cultural and artistic cooperation between the Jewish, the Arab, and the Christian, the Jewish, the Muslim, and the Christian communities, Jews and Arabs together. It's a small program. It's very special within Israel. There are very few like it.
Thank you. So find Tim if you want to give him a little tzedakah before he leaves. Yeah.
I just wanted to say before my kids ate their trip, I give them an hour, say bring it back.
See, there you go. Look. Beautiful. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Safe travels to you.
Before they get home.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to, ensure that they'll come back safely, right? Yeah. All right. And we are going to join together in our Misha Berach prayer for healing while we have our Torah out. Gives us that sense of extra strength that we often need when we're dealing with challenges. Our prayer for healing is back in our Siddur, page 253, in the middle of the page. And this Shabbat, as a community, we're praying for the healing of Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Orly Sherman, Amy Thornton, Laura Armstrong, Stacy Hetzel, Diane Turner, Jacqueline Tara Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Carlene Ackerman, Vadim Barzam, Jill Forleo, Ellen Gottlieb, Marlene Brock, Vanessa Bianco, John Lang, Jack Sani, Paul McCready, Janelle Cohen, Glenn Letts, Jesse Early, Andrea Gorovich, Joni Michaels, Heidi Neiman, Carl Wilhite, Trudy Hendrickson, Barb Carmichael, Ginny Gaston, Harold Lanny Monson, David Seligman, and Cindy Balin. If there are other names of loved ones who are in need of healing and you would like to share with the community, I invite you to do so now. If you're on our live stream, please share it in the chat. Let's join together in our prayer for healing. Misha Berach. Bless those in need of healing with your fuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We're going to take a look now at our Haftarah before we put our Torah away. Just leave it right there. So our Haftarah, keep your prayer book handy if you would like to join me in the blessing for the Haftarah. And our Haftarah for the Torah portion is in the Plout commentary. It's on page 1019. 1019. And the blessing is in the prayer book on page 254. If you would like to join with me, please do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah uv'Moshe Yisrael amo uvin v'yeh ha'emet v'tzadek. All right. So each Torah portion has a Haftarah portion that comes from the book of, well, from one of the books of prophets. And it usually has a thematic pair to the Torah portion. So this Haftarah comes from 1 Samuel. And Moses, in the Torah portion, we know about the Korach rebellion. Korach and some other people come up against Moses and Aaron and challenge the authority and are upset with basically that they feel like they're not getting their, the same privileges as Moses. And Moses is not a king. He's a prophet. He is a leader. He definitely is, has been given a lot of authority, most of which he didn't actually ask for and doesn't actually want. And what happens is at the end of the Torah, when the section of Haftarah starts and moves into the time when the Israelites cross over into the land of Israel. Moses dies at the end of the Torah. And so early on in the section of prophets, there's this debate that happens where the people basically say, we need a king, not just God, but we need a human king as well to lead us. So there's a whole debate that happens, and in the end, God agrees to give the people a king. And so this Torah portion, or this Haftarah portion, why don't I just read it? It's 3 pages. I want to read it in English. And maybe what we can do is I'll read the first paragraph and then we'll go around and just paragraph, or a few sentences, paragraph. And if you want to skip, you can skip, but just to get some other voices if you want to read nice and loud. And just as we're reading it, just pay attention to some of the themes of like what feels similar and familiar to the Korach attempt to replace Moses versus what's happening now in this Haftarah portion where Samuel has appointed a king, which was Saul, and there's a question about how people will still relate to God and God's authority. So leave it at that. We'll read it and then see if anything comes up for us. So I'll start us off and then I'll pass it to Marty if you want, Marty. Samuel said to the people, "Let us all go up to Gilgal and there renew the kingship." So all the people went to Gilgal, and there at Gilgal before the Eternal they crowned Saul king. Then they offered up offerings of well-being to the Eternal One, and along with Saul they all held a great celebration. Marty.
Then Samuel said to all Israel, "I've listened to your pleas and done everything for you. You asked of me and set a king over you. From now on, the king will be your leader."
Okay, so that's Samuel saying that. And do you want to read? Do you want to pass? All you want to read? Do you want to pass? That's for me.
As for me, I am old and gray. My sons are among you, and I have been your leader since my youth. Here I am. Testify against me in the presence of the Eternal and in the presence of God's anointed. Have I taken anyone's ox or anyone's donkey? Have I maltreated or oppressed anyone? Have I taken a bribe to turn a blind eye to anyone? Tell me, and I will return it.
Okay, so Samuel, who was the military leader, a prophet, a judge, and so here he is, he's old and gray, he says, and he's like, have I done anything wrong? Tell me, have I? Have I mistreated anybody? Have I taken anything that didn't belong to me? And people say, Sally, you want to read what they answered?
They answered, "You have not maltreated or oppressed us. You have taken nothing from anyone." He said to them, "Then the Eternal is witness, and God's anointed king is witness this day. You have found nothing sticking to my hand." And they answered, "Witness."
All right, I love that phrase. You found nothing sticking to my hand. Jill, you want to read verse 6 on the next page? Or you can pass to.
And Samuel said to the people, "The Eternal, the one who chose Moses and Aaron, and who brought your ancestors back."
All right, Ellen, you don't have to read this whole thing, you can split it up with Roger.
Now stand here, and in the presence of the Eternal, I will put the case to you concerning all the victorious acts that the Eternal has done for you and your ancestors. When Jacob came to Egypt, your ancestors cried out for help to the Eternal, who sent Moses and Aaron, who brought them out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Eternal their God, who then gave them into the hand of Sisera, Hazor's commanding general, into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they had to fight them.
Roger, we'll pass you.
They cried out to the Eternal,
Keep going.
saying, "We did wrong by turning away from the Eternal and serving the Baals and Astartes. Save us now from our enemies, and we will serve you." Then the Eternal sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel and saved you from the enemies around you, and you lived in safety. But when you saw Nahash, king of the Ammonites, marching against you, you said to me, "No, we must have a king to rule us. No, the Eternal your God is your king."
Thank you. All right, Roger?
Now then, there is the king you chose, whom you requested. Now the Eternal has given you a king. If you revere, serve, and listen to God, and do not rebel against the word of the Eternal, then you and your king will be followers of the Eternal your God, and all will be well. But if you do not listen to the voice of the Eternal, but rebel against the word of the Eternal, then the hand of the Eternal will be against you and against your king.
Thank you. Tim, do you want to read the verse 16 at the top of the next page, or pass? Tim, do you want to read or pass?
Oh, you want me to read it?
If you want.
Oh, I thought you said so. Now stand here and see the great thing that the Eternal is going to do before your very eyes. This is the time of the wheat harvest, is it not? I am going to call to the Eternal, who will send thunder and rain. That will show you what a wrong you have done in the eyes of the Eternal by asking for a king. So Samuel called to the Eternal, who sent thunder and rain that very day.
All right, Johanna, you want to finish us off?
Then the people were greatly in fear of the Eternal and of Samuel. The people all said to Samuel, "Pray for us to the Eternal, your God, so that we do not die. For we have added to all our other sins a new people by asking for a king." But Samuel said to the people, "Do not be afraid. It's true that you have done all this evil. Just do not turn away from the Eternal, but serve the Eternal with all your heart. Do not turn to know things that cannot help or save you, because they are nothing. The Eternal will never give you up for the sake of God's great name, for the Eternal has willed it to make you God's own people."
All right, thank you. Anything come up for anyone? I have some thoughts. Marty, yeah. Marty's always got some good thoughts.
I think this morning I was listening a little bit to Shankar or Donkey or whatever they.
Hidden brain, yeah.
Yes, and he had a comment about somebody interviewing a professor from Cornell University talking about people yielding to our temptations. And I keep thinking about here how we're going to be, our ancestors were going to be praising God and obeying what God was telling our ancestors to do, but we keep falling back into the old habits and forgetting God. And, I got the parallel of those two, and I was just thinking there's a prayer that in our Siddur that I can't remember the page of it at all. It's got the same idea. Here on page 143, but I need strength, humility, courage, and patience, strength to control my passions, and so on. But those concepts of how our ancestors kept falling backwards into troubles, this prayer and Shankar Vedante this morning is
Yeah.
very, very similar.
I like it, thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
I find it interesting because Elohim Yitzhar, that's one that I would always read every week. And I remember historically, there was a rabbi teacher and his students asked during silent prayer, what was the prayer that he read, and it was this. So, there you go. I'm glad you like it because I like it.
Yeah.
It's hard to not speak with other people. I'm reading it constantly.
Yeah, the idea of holding my tongue, practicing humility, right? Yeah, and it's very hard, and I think it's hard to be in a position of leadership. It's very hard for people, it's really easy to like pick out the things that you're not happy with, right? It's like easy to see the flaws or think I could do it better or it should be this way. Yeah. Yeah, Joe.
Toward the end, I really like the way Samuel comes across as, forgiving other people, but very positive looking to the future, that God will still be there for you, even though you were jerks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. You did all this evil, but yeah. Yeah. But but you still have an opportunity, right? Do not turn to know things that cannot help you or save you. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Tim.
It's interesting also the difference between the circumstances of the Parsha and Haftarah, that in one case you have rabble-rousers that are stirring people up.
Yes.
And find fertile ground. And people, they don't so much say, yeah, Korah, 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 Korah. You don't hear that. But you do find afterwards they're very upset that he's gone. In this case, there isn't anybody who's standing up and saying it's more of a murmuring. And we've heard a lot about murmuring, but this is a case where there isn't a rabble-rouser, but the effect on it, the effect of people who want to have a person to worship.
Right.
Give us a king to rule over us. It's a universal. We've seen it with Huey Long. We saw it with William Jennings Bryan. We've seen it in not fairly far enough back in history as far as the recent president. We see this kind of thing as a universal within human existence, and as so often is the case, Torah comes to tell us, not good.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. We, in the interest of time, I know we have to wrap up for our program at 12, so we are going to join together in our blessing after the Haftarah. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts, and you can continue discussing over lunch or over trash picking up. Let's join, if you would like to join me in the blessing after the Haftarah, it's on page 254. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik b'chol hadarot ha'el haneman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvihim Yom HaShabbat Hazeh Shenatata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu Likdusha V'limnucha Lechavod Ultifaret Al Hakol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu Modim Lach Uvarchim Otach Yibarach Shimcha Befi Kol Haitami Le'olam Ved Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. All right. Joe, can I invite you up to lift the Torah? Are you willing and able? I know you're able. Are you willing? I know I'm not able. We are going to be on page 252. If you're able, please rise, and we'll return the Torah to the Ark. I'm going to invite up Max, Jonah. Did we lose Evan? If we did, that's fine. Max and Jonah. All right. They're going to help. Yeah, come. You want to help me wrap the Torah? Okay.
Can we set these down?
Yes. Vizo tatora asher samoshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael b'Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yala lai 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 lai. Lai 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 ya lai lai lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Thank you. Yep. Etz hayim pi lemachazikim ba v'tomecha me'usha derachecha darchenoam v'chol mitzvotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva kadesh yameinu kekedem. Toda rabah. You can stay standing, and we're going to continue with Aleinu on page 283 at the top. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adonai kol, latet gdula l'etzer breshit, shehu sam chalkeinu le'acher shemo, v'gohor aleinu l'amlich malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei malach malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. 287. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech ha'kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. May be seated. And we turn to page 294 now for Mourner's Kaddish, as our thoughts turn to our loved ones that we've lost either recently or at this time in years past. On this Shabbat, we are observing the yard sites, remembering Stephen Lewis Asher, Marion Cushman, Rita Goodman, Lee Horowitz, Rose King, Isaac Lazovsky, Ann Niemans, and Jasmine Rose. If there are other loved ones that you are remembering on the Shabbat and you would like to share their name and your relationship to that person, I invite you to do so. If you're on the live stream, please share in the chat as well.
My cousin Grace's father.
If you're able, please rise. We'll join together as one community as we join together in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. V'kadal v'kadash shmei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach yirteh v'amlich malchuteh, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayeh dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who provides comfort to the bereaved be a source of comfort to all of us, to Israel, the whole world. We say together, Amen. May be seated. We are going to continue now on pages 300 and 301 for blessings. On page 300, let's join together. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam b'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. On page 301, Al Kaim Barach Adonai et Yom HaShabbat vayikachechu. Therefore Adonai blessed the day of Shabbat and hallowed it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. We'll join together in Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Just remembered, Molly, come on up. We have one quick announcement, and then we will finish.
As many of you know, our wonderful, wonderful Nestor always provides our Kiddush lunches after services. July, he takes the month off, and many of us step in so that you can still have lunch, Kiddush lunch. A number of you, thank you, have already stepped up and volunteered to bring something on our Sign Genius. Those of you who haven't had a chance yet, please see me after the service. We would love to have more contributors. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If you are going to join us on the Shabbat Litter Walk, which I hope you will, we'll have a chance to we'll take a quick bite to eat, have a quick little bite, and then we'll join together. We'll do just a short little Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the beautiful day.